Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. I feel like I haven't done a solo episode on the regular show in a long time. I have been doing solos on Patreon. So I think I've done 4 episodes there. That's every Saturday. And that is where I deep dive a little more into just the personal things going on in my life, the weekly recaps, deep dives on specific topics like last week I did Hollywood tea. I've done some on dating and relationships. So it's really fun because it's totally uninhibited and just me kind of rambling. It's kind of a voice note vibe. I don't know about you guys, but I communicate to my friends via voice notes, and we call it the Friendship Podcast because they always end up being 10 minutes long back and forth to one another. So anyway, if you have not gone there, then there's so much good stuff there. But of course, I want to fill you guys in on what's going on and just keep everybody posted who listens to the regular show as well. I know not everybody wants to be on Patreon. So this is coming out Wednesday. So this week, officially, my show is moving to 2 episodes a week, which is very exciting, very daunting. You guys know I am a total introvert. So it's so funny that somehow I landed myself in a career where all I do is talk all day. I talk all week, just talking. It's hilarious. But I'm very excited. So we're doing episodes on Mondays and Wednesdays on the regular show, and then a Saturday kind of bonus content episode on Patreon. And I'm really excited, especially because I really want to kind of include the community more in the podcast. So we're going to be doing things like advice episodes, more solo episodes on the regular show too. We're going to be doing anonymous Q&A kind of episodes, and we're probably going to experiment with some different formats, maybe voicemails, things like that. So get excited. And I'm so grateful for you guys for supporting the show and making this growth possible. So that was just a little bit of house cleaning that I wanted to get out there in the top here. But I am going to, I guess, recap you guys a little bit because I did a Q&A on Instagram for this episode as usual. And so many questions about just what's going on in my life lately. And of course, about dating and my house and everything. So right now, let's see, I'm recording this on Monday morning and I am completely dragging. I'm not sure why. I was just talking to my producer today about why we're just so groggy. I don't know. I didn't really do much this weekend. I spent Mother's Day yesterday with the boyfriend and his family. Yes, it's a full-blown boyfriend now. I'll get into that in a second, but it was so nice, so relaxing. I went for a walk last night in my new neighborhood. As you guys probably know, I closed on my house a few weeks ago, and it's just been so much newness, and it's all really, really good. But for whatever reason, I'm just I don't know, tired, groggy, dragging this morning. But let's see, house updates. That's another thing that a lot of people asked about. So I closed, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And 3 days after I closed, we started knocking shit down. So the house is pretty perfect as it is, but I'm redoing all of the bathrooms and the kitchen. I'm so excited because I hired Eric Garcia. So I talked about this on Patreon as well a little bit. Maison Trouvel. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but this is kind of a manifestation moment for me because I have followed him for so many years. And when I was separated in 2022, I was living in a temporary place that I was renting. And I went to his storefront downtown. I'm not sure if he still has it, just to get a few pieces for my place. And I remember thinking at that time, if I ever get a house of my own and do the house myself, I want to hire him. It was a dream. So it's so crazy how exactly 2 years later, now I have a house of my own and he is going to be designing it with me. Obviously, I didn't plan on the divorce and the circumstances are not ideal, but I'm really, really excited. And it was kind of perfect because I reached out to him on a Friday, the Friday that I went to Austin, and he got back to me. And then that Monday, there was an article in Vogue that he did Hailey Bieber's office in Beverly Hills. It was like all over the internet. So I'm sure so many people reached out to him. I was so glad that I got him when I did. So that's very exciting. So we have a meeting this week to go over design stuff. And that is pretty much what's going on with my life. It's just so much work because of the increase in episodes, house, and boyfriend. Okay, so I will get into the dating life stuff because so many people are asking, and I've kind of very gently soft launched on my Instagram that I'm seeing somebody, and I have some pictures where you can like see his arm and stuff like that, but I am keeping it private for now. So yes, I am dating. It is a boyfriend relationship situation now. I was not planning on this. We were actually talking about it last night, laughing because my best friend and I have never been single at the same time. And when I was going through my divorce, again, not ideal, but trying to look for the silver lining, my friend and I were like, we are finally going to be single at the same time. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go here on this night and there on this night. We're going to have a Euro summer. Like, can you even imagine? It's going to be so amazing. And then that didn't happen because Harley, so if you are on Patreon, then you already know this whole story. Harley set me up with one of his good friends, and I really didn't expect anything to come of it. Neither did he. And it just has been like the best thing from the start. Just such an amazing relationship. I don't want to be that girl who like goes from one relationship to the next and like makes that my whole personality. But yeah, it was just so unexpected and it's been so good. People asked me what I'm looking for this time around dating. And I think I've alluded to this in previous episodes. I feel like I'm not really looking for anything. So in the past, I felt like I always needed something to be fulfilled by my partner. And it's okay to have needs, emotional needs, all of that. Like that is part of a relationship. But I'm in a place right now in my life where I don't need anything from anybody. I don't need like security of any kind. I don't need like a house. I don't need a lifestyle, whatever it is. Like everybody kind of looks for different things in people. I feel like I don't need anything. Like I'm so good as I am on my own. And it's kind of cliche and you hear that so often, but I feel like when you're in that place, then you attract that kind of energy. And it's just so refreshing to be in such a pure relationship. Like he's the same way. He said that he had to go through some things that he went through in the past few years to get to the place where he is too. And like, he's so fulfilled. He's so social. It's crazy. And he, you know, has a career and he has a really good life and everything. And so he just like didn't feel like he needed a relationship. And that's how I felt too. And then we found each other and it's just been amazing because I feel like we just enhance one another's lives. We're not like satisfying a need or something that we feel like we are lacking that we need to find in another person. I don't know if that's making sense, but someone asked, how quickly can you date after being in a relationship? She was in a relationship for 2.5 years. I mean, I don't think that there should be any rules. I think that naming a number is pretty arbitrary, not really based on anything. I think it's totally going to vary. And I may have talked about this in my last solo episode. I feel like you can be in a really short relationship where it's very intense and you might need a lot of time to heal. And you can be in very long relationships where perhaps the relationship was over long before it actually ended. And in my own case, I felt like I went through a lot of the processing and a lot of the emotions prior to getting divorced. The divorce was kind of just the last final action, whereas things had been unraveling for a long time. Obviously, I mean, we got separated in 2022 and then got back together. Like that's, you know, pretty indicative of issues in the relationship. And we really tried to work through them, but the writing was kind of on the wall. And I felt like when we finally got divorced and I did move out, that I was in a pretty good place emotionally. Like I had really processed so much of what had happened in that relationship. I'd really looked at myself a lot, my own actions, my own shortcomings, in my work in recovery. I would talk to people and be like, well, he this, he that, he's not this, and they were like, yeah, it doesn't really matter. Like, what are you doing and what are you not doing? So I had done a lot of that work already. And all of that is to say that I think that it just totally depends on how you feel. You either feel ready or you don't, I think. And I think that if you're not sure and you try dating and you just feel like it's too much or that you're not in a place where you want to do that, then that is pretty telling in and of itself. But I don't think that there should be any rule. I mean, I definitely judged my own situation with, we call him Mr. X on Patreon. So the guy that I'm seeing. In the beginning, I was like, I can't get into a serious relationship. I was kind of keeping walls up and trying to set some really arbitrary parameters around the relationship. I don't know if it was a relationship at that time, but I just was not allowing myself to fully be present and enjoy what was happening because I felt like, well, it's wrong. I just got divorced. Like maybe I should be alone. And I remember I may have even said something to him and he's like, look, if you need to like go to Bali for 6 months and find yourself, go for it. I'll be here when you get back. And I was like, wow, that's very like secure of him. Green flag. But then I just kind of realized like, here is somebody, whether this works out or not, I just want to say this before I say what I'm about to say. I felt like I had found somebody who embodied so many of the qualities, had so many of the values that I would want in a future partner. So I was like, well, why would I not pursue this and just see where this goes based on my own rules that I'm making up in my head? So anyway, let's see. New man aside, did I ever consider dating a woman? I've actually gotten this question a lot. I don't know if I give off vibes. I don't think I do, but no, never considered women. I know that like that's the thing now. Everybody's fluid. I'm not fluid in that way. Tips for working up the courage to leave a relationship. So I would encourage you to go back and listen to my divorce episode. I believe it came out in the beginning of February. It was a solo episode that I did then where I got into this. It is the hardest thing. Oh, also go back and listen to my episode with Matthew Hussey because he is the expert in this area. And I felt like he articulated a lot of the feelings that I had that I couldn't really articulate, but it's really, really hard. I mean, I think that for me, I can only speak to my experience. I couldn't find the courage for so long. And we all have those fears. I think that we need the courage because we have the fear of being alone, the fear of not finding somebody again. Everybody has that. Whether you're 20, whether you are 50, whether you're 80. We were talking about this yesterday at Mother's Day, actually. So just know that that's an inherent fear that everybody has for whatever reason, but it's not always a rational fear because like how many people are in the world? 300 million-ish in the United States. That song is pretty old, so that could be outdated. We may be way more than that now. But my point is like there's somebody for everybody. So try to set that fear aside and just really tune in to what you're feeling. I knew that it was time when I got to the point where the thought of staying was scarier than the thought of leaving. And, I can relate it back to my alcoholism because I felt like my rock bottom with drinking was like when I couldn't picture my life with or without alcohol, but the thought of things staying the same was so terrifying to me. So I think if you're at that point in your relationship, if you're thinking about leaving, finding the courage to leave, if that is outweighing the good thoughts, then I think that, it might be time to seriously evaluate that. I think therapy is extremely helpful because it's so important to have a support system, and a therapist can help work through, that negative self-talk and those fears that I was talking about before around like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? What if I'm alone for the rest of my life? Who's going to love me? This, that, and the other. And in my recovery, when I was going through my divorce, I did something called a fear inventory. And all of my fears were that, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? What if this? What if that? What if I'm alone forever? Blah, 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 blah. Like self-centered fear. It all came down to me not wanting to feel uncomfortable, and somebody that I work with who gives it to me straight all the time, cuts right through the bullshit, said, Ariel, part of being a big girl is learning how to deal with discomfort. And I was like, excuse me? But I really appreciated that because I was like, wow, she's right. I can stay comfortable or stay uncomfortable because of the fear of experiencing a different kind of discomfort, or I can, have the courage. And the courage is found in the moment that you make that decision. It's like, I don't feel like the courage precedes the action. I feel like the action precedes the courage, and you find this courage that you didn't know that you had. So that was my experience. Also, when I was like towards the end of that relationship, and I saw something, I think on maybe Rainbow Salt, such a good Instagram account. She's a writer, and she just has these like beautiful things that she shares on Instagram. Anyway, it said something along the lines of, you can either choose the prolonged discomfort of living a life where you're always wondering what if and wishing that you had the courage to do something different. So it's kind of like a dull ache. It's like this undercurrent that just runs through your life all the time. Or you can deal with the acute pain of making a change, having that discomfort, having the uncertainty, facing the fear for the possibility of something like so beautiful on the other side. And that really stayed with me too. I was like, whoa, I choose acute pain. That's just life, like life is uncomfortable, life is uncertain. That's all I have to say about that. Okay, a few more relationship questions that I got that I will address because I just get them every single Q&A that I do. One is, would I date somebody who has kids, knowing that I'm child-free, etc. This whole topic of child-free is wild to me. I mean, it really brings out the very opinionated people on social media, put it that way. I truly don't understand why anybody cares whether a woman has kids or not, but such is the climate and the time that we are living in right now. So it's not a deal breaker for me. I think if somebody had kids, obviously my preference would be that they don't have kids. I just don't have that desire like at all whatsoever. And every year that I get older, I'm more and more sure of the fact that I don't want kids. That said, I'm 38 years old, soon to be 39, fucking crazy. And I know that the dating pool might be a little bit saturated with men who are like divorced dads, guys that have kids, especially in the age range that I would want to date, which is like my age-ish. I'm really not into guys my age, but maybe like 40 to like, I don't know, 55, say. A lot of guys have kids. I found one that didn't. Thank God. So not something that I have to worry about right now, but I probably would date somebody if they had kids, if I felt like they were everything else that I was looking for. But luckily don't have to worry about that right now. Somebody said, if I met the one and he wanted kids, would I? I actually answered this on Instagram, I think, a few weeks ago. And I said he wouldn't be the one if he didn't respect the fact that I don't want kids. This idea that like you're going to meet somebody and they're going to completely change your mind. I'm sure that happens for some people. And I've heard from people who follow me who have had that experience. But for me, I know, like, so deep in my bones, it's just not something that I want for myself. So if I met a guy and he was like amazing and wonderful in every way, but he was like determined to have kids with me, I'd be like, sorry, bro, not happening. And he wouldn't be the one. I mean, it's like at the end of the day, that would mean that we had different values. And I think that the most important thing in a relationship, aside from like respect, is having shared values. I just think that like you can't overcome having different fundamental values like that. And I kind of think about it like, okay, what is my analogy here? Okay, take cats, for example. Like, for anybody listening, if you didn't want, or if you don't like cats, and somebody was like, yeah, but you're going to want a cat someday, and you just don't care or like, you just don't care about or like cats, like, you're probably not going to change your mind and magically one day want a cat. I know it's a little different than that. There's biology, blah, blah. I get the argument, but yeah, just not for me. And then people always say, like, well, what if you change your mind? Well, what if you have kids and you don't really want kids and you have them? Then you can't change your mind, you know? So yeah, he wouldn't be the one if he wanted kids with me. Would I get married again? Don't know. It's like the last thing on my mind right now. How to attract a healthy relationship. So I'll give you guys this exercise that I did in recovery, and that is to write down your ideal. So what is your ideal partner? What are their qualities? What do they bring to the world? What are their values? Again, things like that, not necessarily things like tall, rich, and hot. And you write down your ideal, and then you just go out there and you try to be that person. So you try to embody that. And I think that that comes back to like you attract what you are. Like water seeks its own level. I think that that's true to a degree. And I just think that it's a really good exercise because not only do you get really clear on what you are looking for, but then I think that you kind of change your energy. And when you write it, you put it away, and then you go out and you try to be that, you stop thinking about it. And I feel like that is often when it happens. Okay. Now I'm going to switch to, let's see, some wellness and beauty things. Let's start with current wellness obsessions. So my wellness routines have been pretty non-existent. I feel like I've talked about this ad nauseum. Ever since I moved out and got divorced, my life has been so different. I'm out almost every single night, not like out, but like going to dinner or doing something social. I am not cooking very much. I cooked the last 2 nights, which was the most that I've cooked in like 2 months probably. I am not necessarily waking up and doing all of my morning routine. I'm doing my matcha. I always do a little bit of a meditation, but for the most part, I'm kind of jumping into work because my schedule has been so crazy that oftentimes the morning is the only time that I can get certain things done. I haven't been consistently working out. Like I am just not on my A game right now, but that's totally fine with me because I think that such an important aspect of wellness is flexibility. I know that rigidity works for some people, but for me, it does not, because when I start to get rigid, I talked about this at Dear Media IRL, I get the fuck it's. And if I have all these things that I'm trying to do and then I don't do 1 or 2 of them, then I just go, fuck it. Like, and I give up on everything. So for me, flexibility is really important. Not to talk about my recovery again, but we have a saying that we wear our recovery like a loose garment. It's not restrictive. It's not constraining. And that's how I am with my wellness. And I know that phases change so quickly. I have the tools and I know what to do to get back to a place where I want to be with my wellness. And I'm using the things that I absolutely really need right now. They're kind of micro habits. So it's like I don't have to do my whole routine that I used to do when I was married, which was like my whole morning routine, like walking 10,000 steps on the treadmill before 8 a.m., meditating, doing breath work, getting my morning sunlight, walking outside, journaling, gratitude, blah, 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 the whole thing, and so on and so forth throughout the day. So now I really am into micro habits that I can just kind of squeeze in. So I do some kind of meditation in the morning just because I need to, even if it's only 10 minutes. I try to do TM, which is 20 minutes. That is like, I would have to say, my one non-negotiable if I had to pick something for the morning. And I pair it with my PEMF mat. So I'm going to just go off on a little bit of a tangent aside here. A lot of people have asked me about like what wellness things I actually use versus my sponsored products. Everything that I use is pretty much from a sponsor. That's how I find things, and that's how I find things that I can recommend to you guys. So if I am promoting something on my stories or on my podcast, 9 times out of 10, I actually use it. And if it's that 1 out of 10 thing that I don't use, I am promoting it because I think that you guys will love it or benefit from it. But so many of my favorite tools are from brands that support the podcast or that I work with on social media because I don't have like the time or the bandwidth to go out and find things and experiment with things. And I feel like I'm so lucky that I have these brands that I work with and they send me their products and they're amazing. So back to the meditation. I'll meditate on my Bon Charge PEMF mat. I don't really understand how this thing works, okay? It's pulsed electromagnetic field. So it has some kind of like frequency that you lay on the mat. It has infrared light. It has like crystals. I don't know. It's supposed to be really good for chronic pain, which is not why I use it, for inflammation, but also to ground you. And I'm telling you, like, I've been sitting on it, sitting up and fallen asleep before while I'm meditating, which like never happens. I am not that girl. I can't take naps. I can't sleep during the day. I don't just fall asleep. I don't just fall asleep randomly. And I do sometimes when I use this, it's so calming and relaxing. And I feel like it just grounds me. So that's a good micro habit. You can do it anytime during the day. Okay, so PEMF mat, wellness, obsession. My infrared sauna blanket, I would say if you could only do one product, that would be the one. It is my favorite thing in the world. It's such a great habit because I can do it while I multitask. You guys have heard me talk about it so often. I'm not going to bore you with the details here, but I feel like it helps my muscles, like recovery if I'm working out, helps with inflammation, helps with detox, sweating. You do burn calories while you do it. So I'm sure everybody loves that. My skin gets really glowy. I just feel like it has so many benefits. So I love doing that as well. And I think that's kind of it for wellness obsessions because like I said, I'm not really on my wellness A game right now. How many steps do I aim for in a day? I don't. I haven't tracked in such a long time, but I do try to be cognizant of how much I am moving. And there are definitely days where I go out, I get a long walk, and I get over 10,000 steps. And there are days where I get like 2,000 steps. And it's just not something that I am necessarily aiming for right now. I just, again, like I can't be too rigid with it. I just try to be conscientious. And if I'm sitting around all day, whether I'm recording, doing work on my computer, editing, shooting, whatever it is, I'll try to get outside and go for a walk, even if it's just for a few minutes, because I feel like that combined with sunlight, I mean, it's just so like it can change your state of being so quickly. What is my current diet? Current diet, I would say, is kind of all over the place because again, like I've been eating out so much and I feel it. I mean, it's crazy. Even if I go to restaurants and I order quote unquote clean or healthy things, like I just notice that my eyes are puffy, my face is puffy. I have like random rashes that I break out in. I don't even know. But for the most part, I do my breakfast still, which is usually like coconut yogurt with protein powder, some granola, berries. That's been my staple for a long time. Sometimes I'll do eggs or something like that. But for the most part, I really crave that yogurt bowl. I always have like a Chomps at some point during the day. I'll have a smoothie and or a perfect bar after a workout. Sometimes lunch is usually like, this is really bad. I've been skipping lunch a lot lately. I was going to lie, but I can be honest with you guys. Haven't been really good about lunch, and I definitely feel it because then I'm like crashing later in the day. But I try to do some kind of protein, vegetables, rice, whatever it is, so that I can at least get something in. And then dinner has been, like I said, all over the place because I've been going out so much. But if I'm cooking, last night I did scallops and salad and brown rice. The night before I cooked, I did these Greek chicken bowls that were so good. I'm going to post on Instagram. I do a lot of branzino, basically fish or chicken, vegetables, rice or sweet potatoes, like pretty simple, straightforward. And that's pretty much it, but it's not like not consistent. And it is not a lot of cooking, not a lot of meal prep. That's actually a goal that I have just because I do feel so much better when I'm cooking at home all of the time. And I've said to boyfriend / Mr. X, I need like 2 to 3 nights at home to cook and just stay in, because I consider even just going out to dinner, going out. And like I said, he is so social. I've never ever seen anything like it. I've never met anybody who's as social as him. Like everywhere we go, everybody knows him. Even when we're not in the state of California, it's bananas. So we're trying to kind of meet in the middle, which we have been doing, where I go out a lot more than I normally do. I am usually up later than I used to be up. And then he is like staying in with me so that I can cook and we can have quiet nights at home. And it's actually nice, I have to say. And I did talk about this on my Patreon. Like when I was married, I was so in my bubble and I was very much on my wellness routine, we'll say. But, you know, I was kind of empty in some ways because I didn't have like this really vibrant, fulfilling social life that I have now. I wasn't like getting out there because, again, I was so comfortable like at my big house in the Palisades with everything that I needed and like everything taken care of for me. It's so funny. I didn't see it when I was in it. And now I look back and I'm like, God, totally different life. But even though I was like so comfortable and doing all my wellness things, it was kind of devoid of a lot of fulfillment and just like joy and fun and things that I have now. And that's not a knock on him, by the way. None of this is. It's just a result of the life and the lifestyle that I had then. Okay, what will my alternative to Botox be? I am trying all the things. My face is falling. My forehead is falling. I don't fucking know what I'm going to do, to be totally honest. It is such a predicament, and I know that I should keep things in perspective. And so many people have been like, at least you don't have a brain tumor or terminal illness. And I'm like, of course, I get that. But also, it's really hard. And it's really hard when you've been doing something like Botox for so long and suddenly that's not an option anymore. And you have to find alternatives. If anybody listening does Botox, they get it. If you haven't done Botox, then you probably don't get it. But I do love a challenge, and I am determined to find effective alternatives. I have hinted a little bit on Patreon that I might be working on something myself, but things were pretty good for a while. I think that we're lied to when it comes to Botox. This idea that we have to get it every 3 months. I know that some people metabolize it more quickly than others. I remember when I was getting it, I was like, I'm immune to Botox. I'm resistant, because like I would get a little bit of like a line next to my eye after 2 months when I smiled. And so I would run back and get more Botox. I haven't really gotten it since August. I tested a few units in my forehead in November, and that kept my forehead like pretty frozen until I would say the last month or so. So I think that this idea that we need to be getting it all the time is not necessarily true. If you want to be like frozen and you want your face to look like a skating rink, which I totally get, then maybe you do need to go more often. But anyway, I've definitely noticed in the last month that the wheels are falling off. So, what I've been trying, besides all of the hydrating skincare, are frownies, which I will say are not perfect. This is my issue with frownies. So, for those who fortunately don't have to know what this is, frownies are like these pieces of paper that you stick onto your forehead. You can do between your eyebrows. You can do the corners of your eyes. I think that you can do smile lines wherever you feel like you have movement or wrinkles. So it's like this paper, and when you get it wet, it turns into an adhesive and it gets super hard. And you're supposed to wear them for a few hours or sleep in them. And it essentially makes like a cast on your skin, like you can't move. But it's so stuck to your skin that, like, when I woke up this morning, I was trying to get it off and I could not get it off. And there's a whole method where you're supposed to like get it completely wet. And they say that the best way to remove them is in the shower. But I just don't really understand. I feel like you're sacrificing your skincare for wearing this thing on your face. And I guess that you can do your daytime skincare and then just like sacrifice the nighttime skincare. But I don't know. There has to be something better. So been trying that. I talked to somebody today in the industry who was like, no, I know so many people who don't do Botox and they use frownies and they love them. So I'm going to keep trying. Today, Monday, this comes out on Wednesday, I'm trying cosmetic acupuncture. So I will report back on that. I'm doing microneedling when this comes out today, Wednesday. And what else am I doing? Gua sha, face massage, all of the things. I think honestly, all of these things help, but skincare is number one. My issue is that I feel like because of my years and years of like hard living when I was in my addiction and just baking myself in tanning beds in the sun and everything, I'm noticing that I have some lines from then that are kind of coming back. So I don't know, maybe some lasers or something are in my future. Not sure. But as far as skincare goes, I'm doing my regular Jan Marini. And then two products that I love that I've noticed have made such a big difference in like plumping my skin, as long as I'm staying hydrated internally too, are the Shani Darden, what is it called? Moisture boosting plumping serum, something like that. That one is amazing. And then the Clarins double serum, which is like an oil and it's supposed to mimic your skin's water and oil. That has been total game changer for me as well. But I will report back on anything, if anything works as a Botox alternative. I do know that like so many people are starting to try to transition away from Botox for whatever the reason is. So yeah, keep you guys posted. If I could only do one thing for skin, what could it be? Oh, I totally forgot about my LED mask too. Red light therapy. That's another amazing one. Okay, if I could only do one thing for skin, what would it be? I don't know if this counts as one thing, but skincare. I mean, I feel like you can do all the things, including Botox. You can do all the Botox. You can do surgery. You can get fillers. You can do Sculptra. You can do whatever. But if you're not taking care of your skin is your canvas and everything else is a cherry on top. And it's so important, especially as you get older, to take care of your skin, because you see women who get like facelifts, even if they're kind of young and they haven't taken care of their skin, and it can only look so good. You can only get so good of a result if you're not taking care of your skin. So I would say just finding a skincare routine that works for you. It doesn't have to be like mine, where it's a gazillion steps, but I would say that is first and foremost the most important. And obviously so many things go into that too, like what you're eating. I mean, I can tell on my face that I have not been eating the best. I've been eating so much dairy. I have like pimples everywhere. If you're watching on YouTube, here, here. And it's so interesting because I feel like my digestion has been so much better since I've been eating dairy, but my skin has been so much worse. But skincare, internally and externally. So you can do the topical things, stay hydrated, eat well, all of that. All right. I'm going to stop there for today. But like I said, so many more solo episodes on the way. You guys can actually DM me or leave comments when I post this video on social media about what you want to hear. If you want to hear advice episodes, if you want to hear just more Q&As like this, if you want to hear topic specific solo episodes, if you want to do voicemails, anonymous questions, if you want to do all of it, let me know. With 2 episodes a week now, we've got plenty of things to talk about, plenty of time to fill. So let me know what you want to hear, because that's what I want to prioritize first and foremost. And I appreciate you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Love ya.